Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Mystery Channel. Tonight, we travel to the hills of southeastern Turkey, where ancient stone circles were carved long before cities, writing, or the first great kingdoms. Here, at a place once hidden beneath an ordinary-looking mound, enormous T-shaped pillars rise from a world we are still trying to understand. Who built them? Why were they deliberately buried? And how did people without metal tools, wheels, or known rulers create something so vast, so deliberate, and so strangely powerful? Some see a temple. Others see a meeting place, a calendar, a memory of the stars, or even a warning from a forgotten age. There are animal carvings, buried chambers, mysterious symbols, and nearby sites that suggest this was only one part of a much larger story. If you enjoy these curious journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is settle in. Let your shoulders soften. Let your breathing slow. And as the day begins to gently fade away, join me as we explore this lost and ancient city together. Let's begin. Göbekli Tepe may be older than farming itself. That single idea turns the usual story of civilization upside down. We are often told that people first planted crops, settled in villages, and only later built temples after food became reliable. Yet this hill in southeastern Turkey seems to come from a time when people were still living by hunting, gathering, tracking seasons, and moving through the landscape. That means a group without farms in the modern sense may have gathered enough people, food, time, and shared belief to carve monumental stone circles. It suggests that the dream came before the city. The mystery is not simply that it is old. The mystery is what kind of need was powerful enough to bring scattered people together before ordinary life had become settled. Some people imagine a sacred meeting ground. Others wonder if it was a response to something remembered, feared, or expected. Either way, the beginning feels far stranger than the textbooks once allowed. The world's first known megatemple rose before cities existed. Picture a place with no streets, no palace, no market, and no written records, yet somehow filled with monumental architecture. That is what makes this ancient hill so difficult to fit into the normal timeline. Huge circular enclosures were built in a world where large urban centers had not yet appeared. The people involved did not leave behind royal inscriptions or proud lists of achievements. They left stone, symbol, and a silence that feels almost deliberate. A project like this required planning, coordination, food sharing, and some kind of authority or agreement. Yet we do not know whether that authority came from elders, ritual specialists, family groups, or something more unusual. Some people see this as proof that belief can organize humans before politics does. Others imagine a gathering site that worked like a spiritual capital before cities had walls. It feels less like a simple temple and more like a missing chapter of human invention. Hunter-gatherers somehow organized a workforce without kings or writing. The practical mystery is almost as strange as the spiritual one. Someone had to choose the stones, shape them, move them, raise them, decorate them, and arrange them in a deliberate order. That means labor had to be coordinated across many days and probably many seasons. Yet there is no known king at the site, no carved command, no written plan, and no clear evidence of a permanent bureaucracy. So how did the work happen? Perhaps kin groups arrived during certain times of year and contributed labor as part of a shared ceremony. Perhaps powerful storytellers held influence through memory and ritual rather than force. Or perhaps the builders obeyed an idea so important that no ruler was needed. That possibility is deeply intriguing. It suggests that human cooperation may have once been driven by awe, fear, promise, or myth. Before law codes and armies, there may have been a story strong enough to move stone. Its giant T-shaped pillars look strangely human. At first glance, they seem simple. Tall stone uprights stand in the center and along the walls, shaped like a capital letter. Then the details begin to appear. Some have arms carved along their sides. Some show hands resting near the belly. Others wear belts, loincloth-like forms, or hanging objects that look carefully placed. Suddenly, the stones stop feeling like architecture and start feeling like presences. There may not be statues in the usual sense, because they have no clear faces. Yet the body language is unmistakable. They stand upright like silent figures watching the space around them. This creates one of the most compelling questions at the site. Were they meant to represent ancestors, spirits, guardians, visitors, or beings that were not entirely human? Their facelessness makes them even more powerful. They are personal enough to feel alive, but distant enough to remain unreachable. The carvings seem to preserve a lost animal language. Across the pillars, animals appear with surprising confidence. Foxes, snakes, boars, cranes, vultures, scorpions, and other creatures were carved in ways that feel more meaningful than decoration. They are not arranged like a simple nature scene. They seem selected, placed, and repeated with intention. To modernize, this looks like a code whose grammar has vanished. One animal may have marked a clan. Another may have represented danger. Another may have stood for death, protection, season, direction, or spirit power. The difficult part is that we are reading the last page of a book without knowing the language. The builders may have understood these images instantly. A fox in one place, a snake in another, and a bird above them may have carried a story that everyone present could follow. Now we only have the carvings. They feel like messages from a mind that recognized the world through animals before words became permanent. Someone deliberately buried the sanctuary and left no explanation. The covering of the site is one of its strangest features. It was not simply abandoned and left to crumble in the weather. The great enclosures were filled in with stone rubble, soil, broken tools, animal bones, and fragments from human activity. That process took effort. It protected the pillars so well that thousands of years later, many carvings survived with astonishing clarity. The question is, why anyone would do such a thing? Perhaps the sacred spaces were closed after their purpose ended. Perhaps each enclosure had a life cycle, and burial was part of honoring it. Others imagine a sudden change in belief, a warning, or a decision to hide something from future eyes. The act feels almost ceremonial. It transformed a living place into a sealed memory. Whoever covered it did not explain themselves. They simply placed the old world beneath the hill and walked away. Pilar 40. 3 may record a forgotten cosmic disaster. This famous stone has become one of the most debated objects of the site. It shows a vulture, a scorpion, other animals, and unusual symbols arranged in a way that some people believe may refer to the sky. One interpretation suggests it could preserve a memory of a comet or celestial event connected to a period of dramatic climate change. That idea is not accepted by everyone, and many see the carving as ritual imagery rather than a star record. Still, the possibility is gripping. Ancient people watched the heavens closely because the sky governed seasons, migration, darkness, weather, and survival. If something terrifying appeared above them, it could have entered story, symbol, and ceremony. The pillar may not be a scientific chart in the modern sense, but it may still hold a memory of the sky as a place of warning. Its mystery lies in the feeling that something important was carved there. The site forced scholars to rethink how civilization began. For a long time, the usual sequence seemed tidy. Farming came first. Settled villages followed. Religion became organized later, once people had enough food and free time. Then this hill complicated everything. Its early layers suggested that monumental ritual architecture may have appeared before agriculture was fully established in the region. That does not erase the importance of farming, but it changes the order of the question. Maybe people did not build sacred places because they had already settled down. Maybe they settled down partly because sacred places pulled them together. That reversal is huge. It makes belief, gathering, and shared ceremony active forces in the birth of complex society. The site also reminds us how fragile old assumptions can be. One buried mound, recognized at the right moment, can make the human story feel unfamiliar again. It does not simply add a footnote. It moves the beginning. Nearby stone hills suggest Göbekli Tepe was not alone. For years, this place seemed almost impossible because it appeared so far ahead of everything around it. Then more sites in the wider region began to reshape the picture. Karahan Tepe, Sefer Tepe, Navali Sori, Sebers, and other locations revealed related architecture, strange carvings, and shared symbolic habits. Suddenly, the famous hill looked less like a single miracle and more like part of a larger sacred landscape. That may be even more fascinating. It means there may have been a network of places where people gathered, built, carved, and performed rituals long before familiar civilization. The region may have been alive with journeys between hills, seasonal meetings, and stories carried from one group to another. Each site adds a different clue. Some have human figures. Some have animal scenes. Some feel more domestic or more ceremonial. Together they suggest a vanished world with depth, variety, and intentions we are only beginning to notice. Most of the hill may still be hiding underground. What we see today is impressive enough, but it may be only a fraction of the full story. Ground surveys have suggested more buried structures beneath the mound, and excavation has revealed only selected areas. That means the most important chamber, carving, alignment, or clue may still be waiting under layers of earth. This is why the site feels unfinished in the imagination. Every conclusion has to remain open because the evidence is incomplete. A single, newly uncovered pillar could change how we understand the symbols. A sealed enclosure could show a different phase of construction. A hidden deposit could reveal what people ate, carried, worshipped, or feared. The hill is not just an ancient monument. It is an archive that has not been fully opened. Some people dream of a central chamber with answers. Others expect more puzzles. Either way, the ground itself still seems to be holding its breath. The builders carved massive stones with surprisingly simple tools. The technical achievement becomes more astonishing when the available materials are considered. The workers did not have iron chisels, steel blades, cranes, or modern measuring devices. They shaped limestone using stone tools. Skill, patience, and knowledge passed through practice. The pillars could be enormous, yet their edges, reliefs, and surfaces show intention rather than rough improvisation. This tells us something important about people often described as simple. They were not simple at all. They understood material, pressure, sequence, and design. They knew where the stone could be cut and how forms could emerge from the bedrock. Some carvings appeared delicate compared with the size of the pillars, which suggests hands trained for both force and control. The real mystery is not whether they were tapeable. Clearly, they were. The mystery is how much knowledge existed before writing, and how much disappeared because it was carried only in memory, demonstration, and tradition. Its oldest circles may date back nearly 12,000 years. That age places the earliest phases close to a world recovering from the last ice age. It is difficult to truly feel what that means. The pyramids of Egypt were still unimaginably far in the future. Stonehenge had not been dreamed of. The first cities of Mesopotamia were not yet rising from the plains. Yet on this hill, people were already shaping huge pillars and arranging them in planned enclosures. The scale of time is almost dizzying. We are looking at a monument closer to the deep prehistoric world than to the ancient empires most people recognize. This makes every carving feel heavier with distance. The builders belonged to a humanity that was modern in mind, but unfamiliar in lifestyle. They walked through landscapes filled with wild animals, shifting climates, and memories we cannot recover. Their world was not primitive. It was ancient in a way that stretches imagination beyond ordinary history. The pillars were shaped before metal tools existed. This fact gives the monument a powerful sense of impossibility. The clean forms and confident reliefs were made before bronze workshops, iron blades, or the familiar toolkits of later builders. Limestone is softer than granite, but that does not make the work easy. A large pillar still had to be separated, trimmed, transported, balanced, and raised, without cracking at the wrong moment. Mistakes could waste weeks of effort. The people involved must have understood stone behavior through long experience. Some alternative thinkers wonder whether lost techniques were used, perhaps methods that left little trace because they depended on perishable tools, sound, water, leverage, or carefully organized labor. More cautious explanations rely on pounding stones, flint implements, wooden supports, and patient teamwork. Both views share one conclusion. The builders possessed a level of practical intelligence that modern people too often underestimate. Their technology was not crude. It was different, and it worked. No one knows who planned the first enclosure. Every major project begins with a decision. Someone, or some group, had to imagine a circular space with towering central stones before it existed. They had to choose the location, mark the ground, organize the quarrying, and decide which symbols belonged where. Yet the planner has no name. There is no signature, no royal seal, no inscription saying why the work began. This absence creates a haunting kind of mystery. Was the first enclosure designed by a ritual leader who claimed visions? Was it the product of a group memory? Did different families bring different stones as offerings into one shared design? The coordination suggests more than random building. It feels like a plan guided by rules we cannot see. The first person to propose it must have persuaded others that the work mattered. That persuasion may be one of the earliest forms of leadership ever expressed in stone. The animals appear powerful, dangerous, and carefully chosen. The carvings are not filled mostly with gentle creatures or scenes of peaceful daily life. Many of the animals have teeth, claws, stingers, beaks, tusks, or serpentine bodies. They include foxes, boars, snakes, scorpions, vultures, and other beings that would have commanded respect in the wild. This selection makes the artwork feel charged with meaning. The builders were not simply celebrating nature as decoration. They seem to have chosen animals that could frighten, guide, threaten, transform, or protect. Perhaps each creature represented a spiritual force. Perhaps they marked stories told during rituals. Maybe they were linked to seasons, hunting groups, death customs, or warnings about the unseen world. The absence of cozy domestic imagery matters too. These are not barnyard symbols from an agricultural village. They come from a world where humans negotiated with wilderness every day. The stones may preserve a map of fear and power. The site may have attracted people from distant regions. A monument of this size probably did not exist only for the people who lived nearest to it. The hill stands in a landscape that could have drawn groups from different territories during special gatherings. People may have traveled there for rituals, feasts, exchanges, marriages, agreements, or shared ceremonies tied to the seasons. Such journeys would have brought languages, stories, ornaments, tools, and food traditions into contact. This turns the site into something larger than a local sanctuary. It may have been a meeting point where scattered communities recognized a shared identity, even before permanent towns became common. Imagine the experience of approaching the hill after days of travel and seeing carved stones unlike anything in ordinary life. That kind of place creates memory. It also creates influence. Some people may have returned home carrying symbols they had seen there. In that way, the site could have shaped a whole region without ruling it. Göbekli Tepe rises on a hill with commanding views. Its position is not accidental. The site sits above the surrounding landscape, with wide visibility across plains, distant ridges, and routes that ancient people may have known intimately. A place like that does more than provide scenery. It announces importance. Visitors climbing toward it would have felt a transition from ordinary ground to a chosen height. From the top, the world could be watched, measured, and remembered. This may have mattered for tracking animal movement, seasonal changes, or the approach of traveling groups. It may also have carried symbolic weight. High places often become sacred because they seem closer to the sky and set apart from daily life. The builders could have placed their enclosures elsewhere. Instead, they chose a location that looked outward. That choice suggests the monument was meant to relate not only to people inside the circles, but to the whole landscape spread around them. The builders may have gathered there for huge ritual feasts. Food may have been one of the engines behind the entire mystery. Archaeological remains suggest that wild animals were consumed in large quantities, and the scale of gathering may have required serious planning. Feasting is never just eating. It creates alliances, settles tensions, marks ceremonies, and makes people feel part of something bigger than themselves. At a place like this, a feast could have turned labor into celebration. Workers who carved, hauled, or raised stones may have been rewarded with shared meals, stories, music, and ritual performances. Some ideas go even further. They suggest that the need to supply such gatherings may have pushed people toward more careful management of wild grains and animals. In that view, the sacred place did not follow the food revolution. It helped create the conditions for it. A meal on a hill may have been one of the hidden forces that changed human history. Some carvings seem to show creatures from different worlds. The animal images are real enough to recognize, but they do not always feel ordinary. Certain figures seem exaggerated, strangely posed, or arranged in ways that suggest more than simple observation. A creature may appear as a hunter, a spirit, a symbol, or a messenger between realms. This opens the door to a more mysterious reading. The builders may not have separated the natural and supernatural as modern people often do. A fox could be an animal and a trickster force. A vulture could be a bird and a guide of the dead. A snake could be danger and renewal at the same time. Some people even imagine the carvings as references to beings encountered in visions, dreams, or altered states during ceremony. Whether or not that is true, the art does feel like it belongs to a world where animals carried messages. The stones may show nature as it was experienced, not just as it looked. The fox appears again and again without clear meaning. Among all the animals at the site, this creature stands out through repetition and placement. It appears on pillars in ways that suggest special importance, yet its meaning remains uncertain. In many later cultures, foxes are linked with cleverness, crossing boundaries, night movement, and trickster qualities. We cannot simply project those meanings backward, but the comparison is tempting. ancient hunters would have known the animal's behavior well. It is alert, elusive, adaptable, and difficult to control. That alone could have made it symbolically powerful. Perhaps it represented a clan or lineage. Perhaps it served as a guardian figure. Perhaps it belonged to stories about transformation, deception, survival, or passage between human and spirit worlds. Its repeated presence feels deliberate, and that is what makes it so intriguing. The builders wanted it seen. They placed it in stone for a reason. The reason itself has slipped away. The snake symbols may point to fear, healing, or rebirth. Snakes appear at Göbekli Tepe with a strange intensity, and they are among the most difficult symbols to pin down. To people living close to the wild, a snake was not an abstract image. It was sudden movement in dry grass, danger near bare feet, and a creature that seemed to vanish into the earth. Yet snakes also shed their skin, which made them powerful symbols in many later traditions. They could suggest renewal, hidden knowledge, underground places, or the boundary between life and death. Some people wonder if the builders saw them as guardians of sacred ground. Others imagine they were warnings, clan signs, or marks connected with seasonal change. The mystery is sharpened by how deliberately they were carved. These were not casual decorations. They were placed where eyes would meet them during ritual, as though their meaning mattered deeply to everyone gathered there. The scorpion carving still invites unsettling interpretations today. On one of the most famous pillars, this creature appears with a force that feels impossible to ignore. A scorpion is small compared with a boar or vulture, but its danger is concentrated. It hides, waits, strikes, and then disappears into cracks and shadows. That makes it a perfect symbol for fear that cannot be seen until it is too late. Some people connect the image with death, protection, night skies, or a warning about a dangerous season. Others see it as part of a larger symbolic scene where each animal plays a role we no longer understand. The most fascinating possibility is that the carving was meant to trigger recognition in the people standing before it. They may have known a story, a ritual phrase, or a sky pattern behind that shape. Today we only see the creature. The meaning that once surrounded it has vanished. Vultures may reveal lost beliefs about death and transformation. In the ancient Near East, vultures later became associated with bodies, sky burial, and the movement between earthly life and something beyond it. At Göbekli Tepe, their presence feels especially important because human remains and strange symbolic scenes complicate the picture. A vulture does not simply represent death in a grim sense. It also cleans, carries, and transforms what has been left behind. To people watching nature closely, that process may have seemed deeply meaningful. Some have suggested that the bird could represent the lifting of a soul or the separation of spirit from body. Others think it may belong to a myth about ancestors, stars, or rebirth. The appeal of this idea is not that we can prove every detail. It is that the image fits a world where animals were not just animals. They were active participants in the great mystery of what happens after breath leaves the body. The central pillars may represent two silent beings. In several enclosures, a pair of taller stones stands at the heart of the circular space. Their position is so deliberate that it immediately raises questions. They are not placed like ordinary supports. They dominate the chamber, almost like figures presiding over whatever happened there. Because some pillars include arms, hands, belts, and garments, many people interpret the central pair as human-like beings. But what kind of beings were they? They could be ancestors remembered by the group. They could be gods, guardians, twins, founders, or ritual presences given bodies of stone. Some people even imagine them as visitors from a realm beyond normal experience, not necessarily from the stars, but from dream, myth, or trance. Their facelessness matters. A face would make them individual. Without one, they become larger and more mysterious. They stand like identities without names, watching a ceremony whose words have been lost. Their arms and belts make the stones feel watchful. The carved human features at the site are subtle, which makes them more powerful. Arms run down the sides of certain pillars, with hands resting near the front. Belts cross the stone bodies. Some details look like garments, tools, or symbolic attachments. These choices transform simple monoliths into upright figures. They do not shout their identity, but they strongly suggest presence. When a visitor notices the hands, the whole pillar changes. It stops being a block and becomes a body. This effect may have been central to the original experience. People entering the enclosure may have felt surrounded by beings rather than walls. Some people interpret the belts as marks of rank or ritual costume. Others think the missing heads and faces point to a belief system where identity was deliberately hidden. The result is unsettling in the best way. The stones seem still, but not empty. They seem to be waiting. No clear village has been found beside the earliest circles. This absence is one of the reasons the site became so famous. Monumental places usually make more sense when a settlement lies beside them. Workers need homes, kitchens, storage, sleeping areas, and everyday spaces. Yet the earliest monumental phases do not fit neatly beside a known town of the kind many people would expect. That does not mean nobody lived nearby, and later, evidence has complicated the old picture. But the relationship between ordinary life and sacred construction remains unresolved. Was this hill separate from daily existence? Did people come here only at special times? Were temporary camps scattered nearby, leaving traces that are harder to recognize? Some people imagine a pilgrimage center before villages became permanent. Others see a blurred boundary between ritual and domestic activity. The mystery matters because it changes the whole story. If people traveled to build and gather here, the site was not just architecture. It was a destination. The sanctuary may have helped create settled life. One of the most exciting ideas about Göbekli Tepe is that belief may have pulled people into new patterns of living. Instead of farming creating temples, a powerful ritual center may have encouraged people to stay closer, organize food, and cooperate for longer periods. Imagine groups arriving for ceremonies that required preparation. They needed grain, meat, water, tools, and people trained in carving. Over time, repeated gatherings could have created habits of storage, planning, and settlement. The sacred place becomes the magnet. Daily life begins to arrange itself around it. This does not mean one monument invented agriculture by itself. Human change is never that simple, but it suggests that spiritual urgency may have pushed practical innovation. People may have learned to manage landscapes because their ceremonies demanded abundance. In that version of history, the invisible world did not wait for civilization. It helped call civilization into being. The builders lived at the edge of a changing climate. The world around the site was not stable in the way we might imagine. The end of the Ice Age brought shifting temperatures, changing rainfall, moving animal populations, and new opportunities for plants. People who depended on wild resources had to pay close attention to these changes. A valley that fed them once might become less reliable. A grain field might expand. Herds might alter their routes. This background makes the monument feel even more charged. It was built during a time when old patterns were loosening and new possibilities were emerging. Some people wonder if the site reflects anxiety about that transition. Others think it shows confidence, adaptation, and the birth of new social bonds. In a changing climate, gathering at a monumental place may have helped communities share information and reaffirm identity. The stones may have stood at the threshold between two worlds. One was fading, and one was forming. The end of the Ice Age may have shaped everything. When the Great Cold period receded, the landscape did not simply become modern overnight. It shifted through unstable centuries, and those changes touched every part of life. Plants spread into new zones. Animals moved. Water sources changed. Human groups faced a world that was becoming more generous in some places and less predictable in others. This is the deep background behind the rise of Göbekli Tepe. The monument may belong to a moment when people were rethinking their relationship with nature, territory, and memory. Some people imagine that older myths from the Cold World survived in ceremony. Others suggest that new abundance allowed bigger gatherings and bolder building. There is also the haunting possibility that sudden climate shocks left emotional marks in stories and symbols. The site does not explain the end of the Ice Age. Yet it may show how humans answered it, not with words on clay, but with pillars in stone. Wild grain grew nearby before farming fully began. The region around Göbekli Tepe was rich with wild cereals that later became central to agriculture. This matters because it places the monument near one of the great turning points in human history. Before fields were planted in the familiar sense, people could harvest naturally growing grain from the landscape. That grain could feed gatherings, support feasts, and reward labor. It may also have encouraged people to return to the same places again and again. The boundary between gathering and cultivation may have been gradual rather than sudden. Someone who watched plants closely could begin protecting useful patches, scattering seeds or timing visits with greater care. Some people see this as a quiet revolution unfolding beside a loud ritual world. The stones show the drama. The grain shows the practical foundation beneath it. Together, they suggest that survival and sacred purpose may have been intertwined from the beginning. The need to feed workers may have encouraged agriculture. Large construction creates a simple but powerful problem. People who spend time carving, hauling, and raising stone are not spending that same time gathering food for themselves. Someone has to feed them. That need may have pushed communities toward better planning, larger food supplies, and more reliable sources of grain and meat. At Göbekli Tepe, this idea is especially fascinating because the monument comes from a time close to the beginnings of farming. Ceremonial ambition may have created practical pressure. If hundreds gathered for labor and ritual, the old ways of casual foraging might not have been enough. People may have experimented with storage, repeated harvesting, and early management of plants. Some even argue that the feast came before the farm. That turns civilization into a surprisingly human story. People did not only grow food because they were hungry. They may have grown it because they wanted to gather, celebrate, and build something astonishing. The site may preserve memories from a colder world. The builders lived after the harshest Ice Age conditions had begun to retreat, yet cultural memory can last longer than climate. Stories from grandparents and ancestors may have described colder landscapes, different animals, dangerous skies, or times of scarcity. These memories might not have been kept as history in the modern sense. They may have survived as myths, ritual scenes, animal symbols, and warnings. Some carvings could reflect beings that mattered in an older environment. Some ceremonies may have carried meanings born before the monument itself. This is where the mystery becomes especially atmospheric. A stone circle can be new, while the stories performed inside it are ancient. People gathered on that hill may have been carrying emotional echoes from a world already disappearing. The carvings could be less like snapshots, and more like inherited dreams. They may preserve a mental landscape that no longer matched the ground beneath their feet. Its builders understood stone weight with remarkable precision. Moving a large pillar is not only a matter of strength. It requires balance, timing, surface preparation, and constant judgment. One wrong angle can crack the stone. One poor lift can trap it in place. The people at Göbekli Tepe had to understand how limestone behaved under pressure, even if they explained that knowledge through experience rather than mathematics. Their success reveals a practical intelligence that deserves respect. They knew how to shape stone while keeping it stable. They knew where to leave thickness and where to remove mass. They could plan a form while it was still attached to the quarry floor. Some people imagine lost engineering secrets behind these achievements. Others see patient trial, shared memory, and highly skilled craft. Both views point to the same wonder. These builders were not guessing blindly. They worked with a confidence that suggests generations of experiment, and their lessons were written into the stones themselves. Some pillars were moved farther than seems practical. The quarry was near the site, but near does not mean easy. A massive stone still had to be cut free, shifted from its bed, dragged or carried across uneven ground, and brought into position without modern machinery. Even a short distance becomes a major challenge when the object is taller than a person and heavy enough to crush any mistake. This raises a fascinating question about motivation. Why choose such ambitious stones at all? Smaller posts could have marked a ritual space. Wooden structures would have been easier. The builders wanted something enduring, impressive, and difficult. That difficulty may have been part of the meaning. A stone that demanded collective effort proved the seriousness of the gathering. Some people wonder if moving the pillars itself was a ceremony, with chanting, feasting, and shared focus. The journey from quarry to enclosure may have mattered almost as much as the finished monument. The quarry marks still show unfinished ambitions. Near the hill, traces of stoneworking remain like frozen moments from a project interrupted. Cut lines, extraction areas, and incomplete forms reveal the practical side of the mystery. These marks are thrilling because they bring us close to the builders at work. We are not only seeing the sacred result, we are seeing the workshop behind it. The quarry shows decisions in progress, including places where stone was tested, shaped, or abandoned. It reminds us that the monument was not created by magic in a single moment. It emerged through labor, correction, failure, and persistence. Some people look at unfinished stone and imagine a sudden event that stopped the work. Others see ordinary changes in plan or defects discovered too late. Either way, the quarry adds human tension. It shows ambition reaching beyond completion. The sacred hill still carries the evidence of ideas that never made it into the circle. One abandoned pillar remains trapped in the bedrock. An unfinished stone still attached to the quarry floor gives the site one of its most vivid clues. It lets us see the process before the final separation. The workers had begun shaping the outline, and the intended form can be recognized, but it never became a standing monument. Something stopped it. Perhaps the stone cracked. Perhaps the plan changed. Perhaps the enclosure it was meant for was abandoned before the pillar could be freed. Some people imagine a sudden crisis, a ritual prohibition, or a decision that the stone was flawed in a way we cannot see. This single unfinished object is powerful because it preserves a moment of hesitation. Completed monuments can feel distant and official. An abandoned work feels immediate. It shows that even these skilled builders faced limits. It also raises a tantalizing thought. If this was left behind, what larger plan was never completed? The builders may have used ropes, ramps, and teamwork. The simplest explanation can still be astonishing. With enough people, strong fiber ropes, prepared paths, wooden rowers or sledges, and carefully built ramps, massive stones can be moved without advanced machinery. But simple does not mean easy. Every part of the operation would have required coordination. Pullers had to act together. Guides had to watch the stone's angle. Others may have placed supports, cleared obstacles, wetted surfaces, or controlled movement downhill. A single pillar could have become a community event. Some people prefer more exotic ideas, and the mystery invites them because direct evidence for every technique is limited. Yet even the practical version is mind-blowing. It means groups without writing could still organize complex engineering through spoken instruction, memory, and repeated demonstration. The technology may have been perishable, but the achievement was permanent. The ropes are gone. The teamwork is still visible in stone. No one has found the original master plan. The enclosures show order, but the blueprint has vanished. There is no tablet showing measurements, no carved diagram, no preserved instruction telling workers where each pillar belonged. Yet the arrangements are too structured to feel random. Someone understood the relationship between quarry, circle, central stones, wall pillars, benches, entrances, and symbolic placement. The plan may have lived in the mind of a ritual specialist or master builder. It may have been marked temporarily with stakes, cords, shadows, or lines scratched into soil. It may also have changed as construction unfolded, with each generation adding its own interpretation. This absence is important because it reminds us how much ancient knowledge could disappear without leaving documents. Modern people often trust written plans, but these builders may have trusted memory and performance. The missing blueprint is not just a lost object. It is a lost way of organizing thought, space, and sacred intention. Each enclosure may have served a different hidden purpose. The circular structures are related, but they are not identical. Their sizes, pillar arrangements, carvings, and construction phases suggest that each space may have had its own role. One could have been linked to initiation. Another may have honored ancestors. Another might have marked a seasonal gathering, a group identity, or a particular mythic event. This possibility makes the site feel less like one temple and more like a collection of chambers within a larger ritual world. People may have moved from one space to another according to status, age, clan, or ceremony. Some enclosures might have been open to many participants, while others were restricted to a few. Because we lack the spoken tradition, we cannot identify the functions with confidence. But the variation matters. It hints at a belief system with layers. The builders were not repeating a design mechanically. They were shaping different spaces for different experiences. The circles were rebuilt across many generations. Göbekli Tepe was not a one-time project. Its history unfolded through repeated building, modification, filling, and renewal. That means people kept returning to the hill across long stretches of time. Children may have heard stories about stones raised by grandparents. Later groups may have inherited sacred spaces whose oldest meanings were already changing. This generational depth makes the site far more mysterious than a single construction event. Beliefs can shift over centuries. Symbols can be copied after their original stories fade. Rituals can be preserved, adapted, or replaced. The builders of later phases may not have understood the first builders exactly as the first builders understood themselves. That possibility adds a haunting human layer. The monument may contain not one belief system, but a conversation across time. Each rebuilding was a response to what came before, and each change carried the old mystery into a new form. Later people changed the site rather than simply preserving it. A sacred place can be respected in more than one way. Sometimes people protect it exactly as it is. Sometimes they alter it because it remains alive in their world. At Göbekli Tepe, later activity suggests that the site was not treated like a frozen memorial. Spaces were modified, filled, reshaped, and sometimes replaced by smaller structures. That pattern can be read in different ways. It may show changing beliefs. It may reflect new social needs. It may even suggest that older enclosures were considered complete after a certain ritual lifespan. This is important because it prevents us from imagining one single moment called Göbekli Tepe. The site was a process. It had phases, decisions, revisions, and perhaps disagreements. Some people may have seen the older stones as powerful ancestors. Others may have wanted to move beyond them. The hill became a layered record of devotion, memory, and transformation. Some structures seem older than others by centuries. The site contains time inside itself. Different levels and architectural styles point to a long sequence rather than one unified construction date. Some of the largest and most impressive circular enclosures belong to earlier phases. Later buildings are often smaller and different in form. This raises an intriguing possibility. The boldest vision may have come first, not last. That challenges the expectation that people always begin simply and gradually build toward complexity. At Göbekli Tepe, the earliest known monumental work already appears remarkably ambitious. Then the site changed. The reasons are uncertain. Population shifts, ritual changes, environmental pressures, or new social habits may have altered what people needed from the hill. Some people find this deeply mysterious because it feels like a high point appearing almost suddenly in the record. The site does not behave like a neat ladder of progress. It feels more like a flare of brilliance, followed by transformation. The buried layers may hold a timeline of changing beliefs. Every layer at the site is a kind of sealed moment. Fill, stone, bone, tool fragments, and architectural remains can show how activity changed over time. When one enclosure was covered and another was built or modified, the hill preserved a record of transition. This makes excavation more than the search for objects. It becomes an attempt to read the biography of a sacred landscape. The deeper layers may hold older symbols. The upper layers may show new priorities. Between them lies the slow movement of human meaning. Some people wonder if a dramatic event caused a shift. Others imagine a gradual evolution as communities became more settled and social life changed. The layers may eventually reveal when certain animals became important, when construction methods shifted, and when ceremonies moved into different spaces. The hill is not only hiding rooms, it is hiding the timeline of thought. The backfill contains bones, tools, and broken stone fragments. The material used to cover the enclosures is not meaningless dirt. It includes remains from activity, including animal bones, flint pieces, limestone debris, and other traces of human presence. This creates one of the most puzzling questions at the site. Was the fill ordinary rubbish gathered for convenience, or was it selected as part of a ritual closing? The answer may be both, which makes it even more interesting. In ancient ceremonies, everyday material can become meaningful when placed in a sacred context. A broken tool may represent completed labor. Animal remains may connect to feasting. Stone fragments may carry memories of construction. Some people see the backfill as evidence of practical cleanup. Others sense a deliberate act of sealing. Either way, the contents turned the enclosures into time capsules. The builders did not leave the stones exposed to vanish. They packed a whole world around them. The burial of the site may have been ceremonial. Covering a monumental enclosure takes intention. It requires people, time, and effort that could have been spent elsewhere. That is why many are drawn to the idea of ritual closure. Perhaps each space was believed to have a life, and when that life ended, it had to be returned to the earth. Perhaps burying the stones protected their power rather than destroying it. In some traditions, sacred objects are hidden when they become too potent, too old, or no longer safe for ordinary contact. We cannot know if the builders thought this way, but the care involved makes the possibility compelling. A ceremonial burial would turn the entire mound into an act of memory. The hill would not be an accident of abandonment. It would be a chosen covering. The mystery then becomes more personal. The people who sealed it may have believed they were completing a duty. The builders may have retired sacred spaces on purpose. A monument does not have to remain open forever to remain important. Some sacred places are used for a season, a generation, or a particular cycle, then closed with care. At Göbekli Tepe, the repeated filling of enclosures suggests that retirement may have been part of the tradition. A space could have been created, activated through ceremony, used for gatherings, and then deliberately ended. This idea makes the site feel like a sequence of ritual lives. Each enclosure may have had a beginning, a period of power, and a final closing. Some people wonder if the closing marked the death of an elder, the completion of a mythic cycle, or the movement of authority to a new group. Others prefer practical explanations tied to stability or rebuilding. Yet the pattern remains suggestive. The stones were not simply forgotten. They were put away. That act may have been as meaningful as raising them. The final covering protected the monument for modern discovery. Whatever the ancient intention, the result was extraordinary preservation. By sealing the enclosures beneath layers of fill, the people of the past shielded many pillars from weather, erosion, and later destruction. The carvings survived in a way they probably would not have if left exposed for thousands of years. This creates a strange and beautiful irony. The act that hid the monument also saved it. Modern visitors can now see details that might otherwise have been lost, including animals, hands, belts, and relief work. Some people like to imagine that the builders somehow wanted the site preserved for a future age. That is speculation, but it captures the emotional power of the discovery. The hill became a container. Inside it, the old stones waited through empires, languages, religions, and forgotten generations. When they finally emerged again, they did not feel ruined. They felt paused. Farmers once thought the stones were only field obstacles. Before the site became world famous, its stones were part of an ordinary rural landscape. People working the land encountered carved limestone fragments and large blocks without knowing they belonged to one of the most important prehistoric places ever found. Some stones were reportedly moved or damaged because they interfered with farming. That detail is fascinating because it shows how easily history can hide in plain sight. A world-changing monument can look like a nuisance until someone asks the right question. The hill did not announce itself with inscriptions or treasure. It waited beneath soil, mistaken for something far less important. This also gives the story a human quality. The discovery was not made in a remote fantasy realm. It happened in a place where daily life continued above the buried past. For generations, people may have walked over the sleeping enclosures without realizing that an ancient mystery lay beneath their feet. The site was nearly dismissed as an ordinary medieval cemetery. Early attention did not immediately reveal the true depth of the place. Because stone fragments were visible on the surface, and because the mound did not yet show its hidden enclosures, it was once interpreted in a much less dramatic way. That near miss is one of the great turning points in the story. Had the site remained classified as something ordinary, its deeper significance might have stayed buried much longer. This reminds us that archaeology depends not only on evidence, but on interpretation. The same hill can look unremarkable or revolutionary depending on what questions are asked. Some people find this especially intriguing because it suggests other places may still be misread today. Ancient sites can wear disguises. A field, a mound, or a scatter of stones may contain a forgotten world. Göbekli Tepe was almost placed in the wrong mental category, and the human timeline nearly kept one of its strangest secrets. Klaus Schmidt recognized something extraordinary beneath the hill. The modern story changed when a researcher looked at the site and understood that the visible stones did not belong to an ordinary ruin. He saw worked limestone, prehistoric tools, and a mound whose shape suggested something much older and more important than previously assumed. That recognition required experience, but also imagination. Many people had seen the hill. The difference was seeing what it might be. Excavations that followed revealed monumental pillars, circular enclosures, and carvings that challenged established ideas about early society. This moment has the feeling of a doorway opening. Before it, the site was a rural mound with scattered stones. After it, it became a key to rethinking humanity's deep past. Some discoveries are dramatic because a treasure is found. This one is dramatic because a pattern was recognized. The stones were already there. What changed was the question being asked of them. Its discovery changed the story of the Neolithic world. Before this site became famous, many people imagined the early Neolithic as a practical age of slow farming experiments and small village life. Then the carved pillars appeared, and the picture widened dramatically. Suddenly, the people of this period were not only managing food, stone, and shelter. They were building monumental spaces filled with symbols that still feel powerful today. That shift matters because it restores imagination to a time often treated as basic or simple. The people who gathered there were thinking in large patterns. They could plan across seasons, organize labor, and express ideas through architecture that outlasted nearly everything else they made. Some people see the discovery as proof that our ancestors were carrying advanced spiritual systems far earlier than expected. Others see a complex social world emerging step by step. Either way, the old image of primitive beginnings no longer feels convincing. The Neolithic suddenly looks stranger, richer, and more intelligent. Göbekli Tepe challenged the idea that farming came first. The classic explanation was easy to understand. People learned to grow food, settled down, formed larger communities, and eventually created temples. This site complicates that tidy sequence because its monumental spaces appear close to the beginning of agriculture, not comfortably after it. That possibility is thrilling. It suggests that shared belief may have been one of the engines that pushed people toward permanent life, not merely a result of it. Imagine groups drawn to the hill for ceremonies that required preparation, food supplies, and repeated gatherings. Over time, those demands could encourage people to manage plants, store grain, and stay near meaningful places. Some people believe this is one of the most important reversals in prehistory. Instead of bread giving birth to temples, the temple may have helped give birth to bread. It is a simple idea, but it changes the human story in a profound way. The site suggests belief may have organized society first. Long before written laws or royal commands, people may have gathered around shared stories powerful enough to shape behavior. At Göbekli Tepe, there is no obvious throne room or administrative archive, yet the work required coordination on a remarkable scale. Something persuaded people to cooperate. It may have been ritual obligation, fear of unseen forces, reverence for ancestors, or the promise of belonging to a larger community. This makes the site feel like a laboratory for early human society. It hints that belief was not decoration placed on top of survival. It may have been the structure that made cooperation possible. Some people imagined ceremonies where stories were spoken beside the pillars and bonds were renewed through food, movement, and symbol. The fascinating part is that those bonds left no written constitution. They left stone circles instead. The earliest social order may not have sounded like politics. It may have sounded like myth. Ritual may have pulled scattered groups into lasting cooperation. A single hunting band could not easily create and maintain a place like this alone. The scale suggests people coming together from different groups, perhaps at certain seasons, for purposes larger than ordinary survival. Ritual can do something practical in a world without bureaucracy. It gives people a reason to trust, gather, trade, marry, settle disputes, and work toward shared goals. At the hill, ceremony may have turned strangers into temporary allies, and temporary allies into a wider tradition. This is one of the deepest mysteries of the site. It may show the moment when human cooperation expanded beyond the small group. Some people wonder if the carvings worked like shared badges, with animals marking identities that could be recognized across distance. Others imagine initiation rites that bound communities together. The stones may not simply reflect society. They may have helped invent a larger kind of society. The hill may have been a meeting place for clans. The site's position and scale make it easy to imagine groups arriving from different directions, each carrying its own memories, signs, and traditions. A clan gathering would explain why so much effort went into a place that may not have been an ordinary village. People could have come to renew alliances, exchange partners, share news, settle tensions, and honor beings represented by the stones. This would make the hill a social crossroads as much as a sacred center. The carvings may have helped different groups recognize their place within a larger network. A fox, snake, bird, or boar could have meant something specific to one lineage or story group. Some people even imagine the enclosures as gathering rooms for different identities within a shared ceremonial world. The most intriguing part is that such meetings could have shaped history without leaving names. The clans vanished, but their meeting ground survived. Its artwork may encode stories we can no longer read. The carvings at Göbekli Tepe are not random ornaments scattered across stone. They feel arranged, selected, and placed with intention. That makes them resemble the remains of storytelling, even if they do not form writing in the usual sense. A vulture beside a human-like figure, a scorpion below other animals, or a fox set on a pillar may have triggered a complete narrative for ancient viewers. They may have known who the figures were, what happened before, and what the scene meant for the living. We arrive at the end of that tradition with no storyteller beside us. The symbols still speak, but the language has gone quiet. Some people believe the carvings may preserve myth cycles, star memories, origin tales, or warnings from a forgotten era. The power of the art lies in that gap. It shows enough to convince us meaning was there, but not enough to let us fully enter it. The symbols may have worked like a memory system. Before writing, human memory had to carry enormous weight. Stories, laws, roots, seasons, rituals, and family histories could be preserved through repeated performance and visual cues. The images of the site may have helped organize that memory. A carved animal or sign could remind a speaker of a certain story, chant, rule, or ceremony. In that sense, the pillars may have functioned less like decoration and more like a stone library for people trained to read it aloud. This idea is fascinating because it changes how we look at the carvings. They may not be puzzles meant for silent interpretation. They may be prompts for performance. The true meaning may only have emerged when someone stood in the enclosure and spoke. Some people imagine elders guiding younger participants through the symbols, passing knowledge from one generation to the next. The stones may have held memory by awakening it in living minds. Some markings look deliberate, but remain stubbornly unexplained. Not every symbol can be confidently identified as an animal, tool, garment, or body part. Certain marks seem carefully made, yet they resist simple interpretation. This is where the site becomes especially intriguing. A sign does not have to be understandable to us in order to have been obvious to its makers. Shapes that look abstract today may once have referred to a place, action, group, direction, season, or spiritual concept. Some people see these marks as evidence for a symbolic code close to writing. Others think they were ritual signs whose meaning depended on context and spoken tradition. The uncertainty is not a weakness. It is part of the mystery. These markings remind us that ancient people may have used visual language in ways that do not fit our categories. We ask whether something is art, writing, decoration, or religion. They may not have separated those things at all. The H-shaped symbols may represent portals or boundaries. Among the more curious signs are shapes that some viewers describe as H-like forms. Their meaning remains uncertain, but their repeated presence has invited bold interpretations. A boundary symbol would make sense in a ritual space, where people may have moved from ordinary life into a sacred zone. A portal idea is more speculative, but it captures why the signs feel so compelling. Many traditions imagine thresholds between worlds. A marked shape on stone could signal passage, transformation, or a division between the living and the unseen. Some people connect such forms to later symbols from distant cultures, though those comparisons must be treated carefully. The fascination lies in the possibility that the builders had a visual shorthand for crossing from one state into another. Perhaps the enclosures themselves were thresholds. If so, these signs may not have pointed to a doorway. They may have declared that the doorway was already around you. The crescent shapes may connect to sky watching. Crescent forms at ancient sites often tempt the imagination toward the moon, because its changing shape is one of the most obvious rhythms in the night sky. At Göbekli Tepe, possible crescent signs raise the question of whether ceremonies were tied to lunar cycles, seasonal timing, or important nights for gathering. People who lived outdoors would have understood the moon with a closeness many modern people have lost. Its light affected travel, hunting, visibility, and the feeling of time itself. A crescent might represent the moon directly, but it could also stand for horns, boats, containers, or a sacred object whose meaning has vanished. Some people take the sky interpretation further and imagine a calendar built into the symbol system. Others remain cautious. Even so, the possibility is captivating. A simple curved mark may preserve the memory of people watching the heavens long before written astronomy began. The so-called handbags may carry deeper symbolic meaning. One of the strangest recurring shapes in ancient art is the small rectangular form with a handle-like top. Similar images appear in different cultures, which has made them a favorite among people who enjoy alternative history. At Göbekli Tepe and related traditions, such forms may not be bags in the everyday sense at all. They could represent containers, offerings, measures, ritual objects, or symbols of knowledge carried by special figures. Some people imagine them as signs of a teaching tradition shared across distant peoples. Others see a practical object that became sacred through ritual use. The mystery is not solved by naming the shape. Calling it a handbag only describes how it looks to modern eyes. The important question is what it meant to the people who carved it. If it represented something carried between worlds or between generations, then this little form may be far more important than it first appears. Similar motifs appear across distant ancient cultures. This is one of the reasons Göbekli Tepe attracts such intense curiosity beyond ordinary archaeology. Certain shapes, gestures, animals, and symbolic arrangements seem to echo themes found much later and far away. The careful viewer begins to wonder whether these are coincidences, shared human instincts, inherited myth patterns, or traces of forgotten contact. Official caution is understandable because separated cultures can create similar symbols independently. Human beings everywhere watch animals, fear death, track the sky, and mark sacred space. Yet the repeated resemblance still feels provocative. Some people believe the site preserves a very early symbolic vocabulary that later cultures unknowingly transformed. Others imagine lost travelers or memory lines spreading ideas across generations. The fascination lies in the question itself. When different ancient peoples carve similar forms, are we seeing the same human imagination at work, or are we glimpsing fragments of a story older than the cultures that inherited it? Some researchers see star maps in the carvings. The idea that certain pillars encode the night sky has become one of the most captivating possibilities at the site. Animals and symbols may correspond in this view to constellations, celestial events, or remembered positions of stars. It is easy to understand the appeal. The builders lived beneath a dark sky without city lights. The heavens would have been bright, detailed, and impossible to ignore. Stars guided time, direction, myth, and seasonal expectation. If people were carving their most important ideas into stone, the sky may well have belonged among them. Not everyone accepts these readings. Some argue that the images make more sense as ritual animals or mythic beings. Still, the possibility remains haunting. A pillar might be both animal story and sky diagram at once. Ancient thought did not always separate heaven, earth, and spirit. The carvings may preserve a sky that was not only observed, but believed. Others see mythic scenes rather than astronomy. A different interpretation views the carvings as parts of stories, rather than star charts. In this reading, the animals are characters, forces, ancestors, or spirit beings, arranged within a sacred narrative. This approach has its own strength because the scenes often feel active and symbolic, not purely observational. A creature may not stand for a constellation. It may represent a dangerous presence in a myth told during ceremonies. A human figure without a head may not mark a celestial event. It may belong to a story about transformation, death, or the crossing of a boundary. Some people prefer this explanation because it keeps the focus on ritual experience. Others argue that myth and sky watching may have been woven together, so choosing one interpretation may be too modern. The most intriguing possibility is that both views are partly right. A story could be placed in the heavens, and the heavens could be spoken through animals. The vulture stone may describe a soul journey. One famous scene has been interpreted as a bird lifting or attending a human element, which has led some people to connect it with beliefs about the soul. The idea is powerful because vultures naturally transform the dead into movement, flight, and disappearance into the sky. To a society watching that process closely, the bird may have seemed like a guide between states of being. The image may not show a literal event. It may show a transition. A person becomes memory, breath becomes absence, and the body returns to a larger order. Some people connect this with later practices where birds and exposure played roles in funerary tradition. Others think the scene may be mythic, symbolic, or linked to a particular ceremony. What makes it unforgettable is the emotional intelligence behind the possibility. The builders may have been asking the same question people still ask. Where does something go when life has left it? The headless figure may reflect an unknown ritual tradition. Among the most puzzling images connected with the site is a human form shown without a head. This detail is striking because human representation is already rare compared with the animals. When a human does appear in such an unusual condition, it feels significant. It may refer to death practices, ancestor treatment, mythic transformation, or a ceremony involving the separation of identity from the body. Some discoveries in the region suggest that skulls held special importance during the early Neolithic. That makes the image even more compelling. The head may have been viewed as a vessel of memory, spirit, or social power. Some people imagine rites where ancestors were honored through skull display or careful handling. Others see a symbolic scene rather than a direct record of practice. The mystery is not merely what happened. It is what people believed a human being became when the face, name, and body were separated. Skull fragments suggest unusual treatment of the dead. Finds from the site include human skull pieces that show signs of deliberate modification, which has opened a window into a deeply mysterious part of early ritual life. These fragments do not tell a simple story. They suggest that certain remains may have been handled, altered, displayed, or remembered in ways that were meaningful to the community. The details must be approached respectfully, because we are dealing with real human dead from a very distant world. Yet the implication is fascinating. The people at or near the site may have believed the head carried special power. It could hold identity, ancestry, spirit, or connection to a group. Some people see this as evidence for ancestor veneration. Others think it may relate to rites of transition, social status, or protection. What stands out is that death was not treated as a simple ending. It appears to have entered the symbolic life of the place. Human faces are rare, which makes them more mysterious. The site is full of living forms, but clearly detailed human faces are not common. That absence feels deliberate because the builders were capable of representing bodies, hands, belts, and animals with confidence. So why hold back from showing faces? A face makes a being specific. It gives expression, recognition, and individuality. Avoiding it may have allowed the pillars to represent something broader than a person. They could be ancestors without names, spirits without ordinary features, or presences too powerful to show directly. Some people even wonder if the missing faces reflect a taboo, where depicting the front of a sacred being was avoided. The rarity of faces also makes every possible human image more important. When people are nearly absent from the art, the viewer begins to ask who the monument was really for. It may have been built by humans, but visually it belonged to other forces. The animals dominate the art more than people do. This imbalance is one of the site's most revealing mysteries. In many later monuments, rulers and human figures take center stage. At Göbekli Tepe, animals command the visual field. They climb, coil, crouch, and stand across the stones with an authority that seems greater than human presence. This tells us something about the world of the builders. They may have seen animals as teachers, threats, ancestors, spirits, or carriers of cosmic meaning. They may have understood themselves as part of a living landscape rather than masters above it. Some people find this especially important because it suggests a mindset before domestication fully reshaped human identity. The wild was not background. It was central. The animals may have represented forces that humans needed to negotiate with, not simply creatures to hunt. The art makes the human figure almost secondary, as though the true powers of the world had claws, wings, tusks, and scales. Predators appear more often than harmless herd animals. The selection of creatures at the site leans toward tension. There are biting jaws, dangerous tusks, venomous bodies, and birds associated with death. This pattern feels meaningful because the builders could have chosen calmer animals if they wanted a peaceful vision of nature. Instead, they carved beings that demanded respect. Predators occupy a special place in human imagination. They watch from the edge of camp, hunt with skill, and remind people that the world is not under human control. Their presence at Göbekli Tepe may have created an atmosphere of danger transformed into ritual power. Some people suggest the carvings were protective, like placing feared beings under sacred command. Others think they represented spirit allies whose strength could be borrowed. The emphasis on threat may also reflect initiation. To enter the enclosure was to face the powers beyond ordinary safety. The stones did not comfort by being harmless. They impressed by being formidable. The builders may have honored forces they feared. Many ancient traditions did not separate worship from fear in the way modern people might prefer. A dangerous force could be respected precisely because it was dangerous. At Göbekli Tepe, the repeated images of threatening animals suggest that fear itself may have been ritualized. The builders may have carved what they dreaded in order to understand it, approach it, or gain protection from it. A scorpion, snake, boar, or vulture could represent a real animal and something larger at the same time. This is a deeply human response. When people cannot control a power, they often make a place for it in story and ceremony. Some people imagine the enclosures as controlled spaces where wild forces were summoned in symbolic form. Others see them as places where courage was tested. The mystery is that the builders did not hide from danger in their art. They brought danger into the sacred center. The site may have been designed to impress visitors. Monuments are never only about the people who build them. They also speak to the people who arrive. Göbekli Tepe would have made a powerful impression on anyone approaching from the surrounding landscape. The scale of the pillars, the carved animals, and the arrangement of the enclosures could signal authority, sacred knowledge, and group identity. A visitor who had never seen such stonework might feel they had entered a place controlled by people with special access to hidden forces. This matters because awe can shape social life. A site that impresses visitors can attract followers, strengthen alliances, and spread its symbols across a region. Some people imagine the hill as a kind of prehistoric stage where groups displayed power without kings or armies. The message may not have been written, but it was clear enough. Whoever controlled this place controlled a mystery worth traveling for. Its architecture creates a strong sense of controlled movement. The enclosures were not just open spaces. Their walls, benches, pillars, and possible entry points shaped how bodies moved and where attention settled. This is important because ritual often depends on controlled movement. People may have entered in a certain order, paused at particular points, faced the central stones, or circled the space as stories were spoken. The architecture could guide emotion without a single written instruction. It could make visitors feel watched, enclosed, separated from the outside world, and directed toward a central focus. Some people see this as evidence for sophisticated ceremony rather than casual gathering. Others wonder whether only certain participants were allowed into the deepest spaces. The layout makes the monument feel performative. It was not built merely to be seen from afar. It was built to be experienced step by step. The mystery is what those steps meant to the people who took them. The entrances may have shaped how rituals unfolded. Where a person enters a sacred space can change everything. At Göbekli Tepe, possible entryways and access routes raise questions about processions, restricted movement, and staged revelation. A visitor may not have simply wandered into an enclosure. They may have approached from a particular direction, passed between stones, and encountered carvings in a planned sequence. The central pillars may have appeared only after the body had moved through a narrow or controlled path. That kind of design can turn architecture into drama. It prepares the mind before the main experience begins. Some people imagine ceremonies timed with light, shadow, sound, or the arrival of certain groups. Others think the entrances helped separate participants by rule. The fascinating point is that the doorway itself may have carried meaning. Crossing it could mark a change in status, awareness, or spiritual condition. The ritual may have begun before anyone reached the center. Benches around the walls suggest gathered audiences. The presence of built seating or ledges around some enclosures creates a vivid possibility. People may have sat or stood along the walls while events unfolded near the central stones. That changes the way we imagine the site. It was not only a sculpture garden or a silent shrine. It may have hosted performances, speeches, chants, initiations, or ceremonies witnessed by a group. An audience means shared attention. Shared attention means memory, teaching, and social bonding. The carvings around the walls may have surrounded participants like a ring of symbols, while the central pillars drew focus. Some people picture elders telling stories as listeners looked from animal to animal. Others imagined selected individuals moving through the space while others watched. The benches do not tell us what happened, but they suggest that being present mattered. The monument may have been designed not only for seeing sacred things, but for seeing them together. The central stones may have faced ceremonial participants. The taller paired pillars in the middle of certain enclosures seem positioned to command the room. If they represented beings, ancestors, or presences, then their orientation may have mattered during ceremonies. People gathered inside might have faced them directly, as if standing before figures of authority. This creates an almost theatrical relationship between stone and human. The participants were not only looking at carvings. They may have been addressing the central forms, receiving instruction through ritual, or witnessing offerings placed nearby. Some people imagine the stones as silent judges or guardians. Others see them as symbolic hosts of the gathering, with human visitors entering their space rather than the other way around. The facelessness makes that encounter even more intriguing. There were no eyes, yet the whole arrangement can still feel watchful. The mystery is whether ancient participants felt they were meeting representations, or whether they believed something truly present had entered the stone. Sound may have behaved strangely inside the enclosures. Stone, enclosed space, and gathered bodies can change the way sound is experienced. A voice spoken near the center may carry differently than one spoken near the wall. Drumming, chanting, clapping, or low repeated tones could have created an atmosphere that felt unlike ordinary outdoor life. Although we cannot reconstruct every acoustic detail with certainty, the possibility is compelling. Ritual is rarely visual alone. It uses rhythm, repetition, silence, and response. Inside a circular enclosure, sound may have helped create focus and emotional intensity. Some people wonder if the builders understood these effects through experience and shaped spaces partly for performance. Others think any unusual acoustics were secondary to the architecture. Either way, the thought changes the monument. The pillars were not merely seen. They may have been heard around, between, and beneath. The lost ceremonies may have existed as much in vibration as in image. Firelight may have transformed the carvings at night. During darkness, the carved animals would not have looked the way they do in daylight photographs. Flames would have moved across relief surfaces, making shadows flicker around beaks, claws, snakes, and human-like hands. A still figure could appear to shift. A shallow carving could suddenly become dramatic when light struck from below. This matters because ancient ceremonies may have taken place at dawn, dusk, or night, when fire turned stone into performance. The site would have felt completely different under a living glow. Some people imagine torches carried through entrances, revealing animals one at a time. Others picture central activities surrounded by moving shadows on the pillars. The mystery deepens because the builders may have carved with this effect in mind. They knew how light behaved on stone. The images may have been designed not only for the sun, but for moments when fire made the hidden world seem close. The pillars may have looked alive during ceremonies. When human-shaped stones stand in a ring, surrounded by animal carvings, sound, fire, and movement, the boundary between object and presence can become thin. To modern viewers, a pillar is a carved block. To ancient participants in a charged ritual setting, it may have felt like an active being. The arms, belts, and upright posture already suggest bodies. Add flickering light, voices, smoke, and repeated stories, and the stones could seem to watch, listen, or receive offerings. This is not about pretending the builders were naive. It is about understanding that sacred experience often makes material things feel inhabited. Some people believe the pillars were vessels for ancestors or spirits. Others see them as symbolic figures activated by ceremony. Both ideas are fascinating because they make the monument dynamic. The stones did not need to move in order to be alive in the minds of those who gathered there. Some enclosures may have aligned with celestial events. The possibility of sky alignment has followed many ancient monuments, and Göbekli Tepe is no exception. If certain structures faced sunrise points, bright stars, or seasonal directions, then the site may have connected earthbound ceremony with the heavens. This idea must be handled carefully because alignments can be overread. With enough stones and directions, patterns can appear by chance. Yet ancient people had every reason to watch the sky closely. Seasonal change affected food, travel, animal movement, and gathering times. A monument built for repeated ceremony may well have incorporated celestial timing. Some people imagine gatherings arranged around solstices, star risings, or important lunar moments. Others think the architecture was shaped more by terrain, tradition, and ritual movement. The mystery remains open and compelling. Even if only some alignments were intentional, the message would be profound. The builders may have placed their sacred spaces inside a larger cosmic order. The Sirius theory remains one of its strangest possibilities. One of the most intriguing ideas about the site is that some enclosures may have been oriented toward the rising of Sirius. This bright star later became important in several ancient traditions, which makes the possibility feel especially tempting. Around the time the oldest structures were built, Sirius would have behaved differently in the sky than it does today, because stellar positions shift over long periods. Some people suggest that the builders may have tracked its appearance as a powerful seasonal marker. Others think the connection is too uncertain and may be a modern pattern placed onto ancient stone. Still, the idea has a strange pull. A brilliant star emerging after a long absence would have been unforgettable to people who watched the night closely. If the builders marked that return in architecture, then the hill was not only a place of earth and animals. It was also listening to the sky. Orion interpretations continue to attract alternative researchers. The famous constellation has become a magnet for theories about ancient monuments, partly because its three belt stars are so recognizable. Some people have wondered whether certain structures at Göbekli Tepe reflect Orion in layout, direction, or symbolic meaning. The idea is difficult to prove, but it remains popular because Orion later appears in many mythic traditions connected with hunters, gods, and the dead. A prehistoric site filled with animal imagery and human-like stone beings naturally invites comparison. Perhaps the builders watched those stars as seasonal signs. Perhaps they told stories about a sky figure whose meaning has vanished. Or perhaps the resemblance is only coincidence, strengthened by our desire to connect mysteries across time. What makes the theory fascinating is not certainty. It is the thought that people standing in those circles may have looked upward and seen a pattern they believed was mirrored below. The Younger Dryas impact theory gives the site cosmic significance. One dramatic idea links the symbolism of Göbekli Tepe to a proposed cosmic event near the beginning of the Younger Dryas period. According to this view, fragments from a comet or other celestial body may have caused widespread disruption, climate stress, and deep cultural memory. Some people connect this possibility to carvings that seem, to them, like animals representing constellations or warnings from the sky. The theory remains debated, and many researchers do not accept the strongest claims. Yet as a mystery narrative, it is undeniably powerful. It places the hill at the edge of a world shaken by forces from above. If ancient people witnessed unusual fire, darkness, cold, or disaster, their descendants may have carried the memory through story and ritual. The stones could then be read as more than sacred art. They might be a warning carved after the heavens themselves became frightening. Mainstream scholars still debate the comet interpretation. The cosmic reading of the carvings is exciting, but it is far from settled. Many specialists argue that animal images do not need to represent constellations. They may belong to myths, rituals, group identities, or symbolic systems rooted in the local landscape. Others accept that ancient people watched the sky, but warn that matching animals to star patterns can become too flexible. If every creature can be made to fit a constellation, then the theory loses strength. Still, the debate itself is valuable because it shows how unusual the site is. Ordinary ruins do not attract serious arguments about forgotten cataclysms and celestial records. Göbekli Tepe does. Some people see that as evidence that the monument contains a message larger than expected. Others see it as proof of how powerfully the unknown invites imagination. Either way, the stones keep resisting a single explanation, and that resistance is part of their spell. Göbekli Tepe may remember a catastrophe through symbols. Human communities often preserve disaster in indirect ways. A flood becomes a story. A drought becomes a warning. A frightening sky becomes a ritual date, an animal sign, or a tale passed around firelight. At this ancient hill, some people believe the carvings may hold just such a memory. They do not expect a literal written record. They look for patterns of danger, death, sky watching, and transformation. The animals may not describe ordinary nature only. They may encode an emotional response to a crisis that changed the world. This idea is impossible to confirm with confidence, but it is deeply compelling. The builders lived in a period marked by environmental upheaval, and upheaval leaves marks on culture. Perhaps the site was not built because life was calm. Perhaps it was built because people needed to make sense of fear, loss, and survival in a changing age. The carvings may blend sky lore with animal mythology. One reason the imagery is so hard to interpret is that modern categories may not fit it. We often ask whether a carving is an animal, a constellation, a clan symbol, or a spirit. For the builders, it may have been all of those at once. A vulture could be a real bird and a sky sign. A scorpion could be a dangerous creature and a marker of seasonal darkness. A fox could belong to a story told on Earth and a pattern seen above. This blended way of thinking would make the stones rich with layered meaning. Some people imagined ceremonies where speakers connected the movements of animals, stars, weather, and the dead into one living system. That would explain why the carvings feel specific yet unreachable. They may not be labels. They may be intersections. Each image could join the ground beneath the feet with the sky overhead. Its builders may have tracked seasons for gatherings. A place that drew people together needed timing. Groups spread across a wide landscape could not gather randomly if they hoped to share food, trade goods, perform ceremonies, or work on stone. Seasonal knowledge would have been essential. The builders may have watched plant growth, animal movements, weather shifts, and celestial markers to know when the hill should come alive. This gives the site a practical rhythm beneath its mystery. A ceremony may have occurred when wild grain was ready, when herds passed nearby, or when a certain star returned before dawn. Some people imagine a ritual calendar that guided arrivals from different territories. Others think that timing was based more on ecology than astronomy. The distinction may not have existed for them. The season, the sky, the animals, and the sacred story may have been one cycle. The monument may have been a place where time itself was gathered and renewed. The site may have served as a sacred calendar. A calendar does not have to look like a marked tablet or a row of counted days. It can be a place. It can be a set of alignments, ceremonies, animal signs, and remembered sequences that tell a community when to act. At Göbekli Tepe, some people believe the enclosures helped structure the year. The carvings may have pointed to seasonal events. The architecture may have framed certain directions. The gatherings may have occurred when food, weather, and ritual meaning came together. This would make the site more than a temple in the usual sense. It would be a machine for organizing time through memory, movement, and sky watching. Others see the calendar idea as speculative, but even a loose version is fascinating. People needed ways to coordinate life before written dates. A sacred hill could do that work by teaching the year through stone, story, and ceremony. The landscape itself may have guided its placement. The hill was not chosen in emptiness. It belonged to a wider terrain of ridges, plains, water sources, animal routes, plant zones, and visible horizons. Ancient people knew landscapes intimately because survival depended on reading them. A rise in the ground was not just a viewpoint. It could mark a boundary, a meeting place, a memory point, or a route between territories. The builders may have chosen the site because it connected different ecological worlds. It may have looked toward areas where people hunted, gathered grain, traveled, or watched the sky. Some people think sacred places emerge where the land already feels meaningful. Others imagine a planned center placed to command movement across the region. Either way, the monument cannot be separated from its setting. The stones may be only the most visible part of a larger design. The whole surrounding landscape may have been part of the sacred map. Karahan. Teep reveals Göbekli Tepe had mysterious neighbors. The discoveries at Karahan. Teep have made the famous hill feel less isolated and even more intriguing. This nearby site contains related T-shaped pillars, carved features, and unusual spaces that suggest a broader tradition of monumental building in the region. Yet it also has its own personality. Some of its imagery feels different, including striking human forms and installations that provoke intense speculation. This means we may be looking at a network of places that shared ideas while expressing them in local ways. Göbekli Tepe was not simply a miracle that appeared alone. It may have been one node in a much larger sacred landscape. Some people wonder if different sites served different groups, rituals, or stages of initiation. Others imagine a whole lost culture of stone hill centuries. The mystery grows because every new neighbor adds context, but also multiplies the questions. The Tash Tepe region looks like a forgotten ritual network. Across southeastern Teach, Turkey, a cluster of sites is beginning to suggest something much larger than one famous mound. The name Tash Tepe refers to a wider group of stone hill locations that may belong to related early Neolithic traditions. For anyone fascinated by lost worlds, this is thrilling. A single monument is remarkable. A whole landscape of linked monuments is transformative. It suggests shared symbols, repeated architectural choices, and possibly routes of movement between sacred places. People may have traveled from hill to hill for ceremonies, exchanges, teaching, and seasonal gatherings. Some sites may have emphasized human figures. Others may have focused on animals, enclosures, or special installations. The region begins to look like a hidden web, with each place holding one part of a vanished system. Göbekli Tepe may be the most famous doorway, but it may not be the main room of the mystery. Sefer. Teep adds more clues to the Stonehill mystery. Sefer. Teep is one of the related sites that helps widen the story beyond the best-known enclosures. Its evidence suggests that similar symbolic and architectural traditions were not confined to one location. That matters because repetition across sites can point to shared beliefs, traveling specialists, or communities connected by ritual practice. Every related pillar, carved object, or settlement trace adds another piece to the puzzle. Yet these clues do not simply solve the mystery. They make it more complex. Were the sites organized by one cultural tradition, or did different groups adapt a common sacred language for their own purposes? Did builders travel between them? Did stories move with marriage, trade, or seasonal gatherings? Some people imagine a network of sanctuaries that functioned like spiritual waypoints across the region. Sefer. Teep may not be as famous, but it helps prove that the deeper story was never contained on one hill. Saber's carvings show storytelling was already sophisticated. At Saber's, carved scenes include human and animal figures arranged in ways that feel narrative rather than merely decorative. This is important because it shows that early Neolithic communities were capable of complex visual storytelling. The people of this region did not simply carve isolated symbols. They could create scenes that suggest action, relationship, tension, and meaning. That changes how we approach Göbekli Tepe. Its animal reliefs and unusual figures may also belong to stories, not just religious symbols or clan markers. Some people think these scenes preserve mythic episodes that were once performed aloud. Others see them as signs of social memory, where certain events or roles were encoded in stone. The fascinating part is how early this sophistication appears. Long before written literature, people were already placing characters into meaningful arrangements. The first great stories may not have been written on tablets. They may have been carved into sacred walls. Nivali Sori proves T-shaped pillars were part of a tradition. This earlier excavated site revealed that T-shaped stone forms were not unique to Göbekli Tepe. That fact matters enormously. It means the famous pillars belong to a wider symbolic vocabulary in the region. The shape had meaning beyond one hill, and people in different communities recognized its power. At Nivali Sori, the pillars appeared in a different setting, which suggests that the form could move between architectural contexts while preserving its sacred force. Some people interpret these stones as human-like beings because arms and hands appear on related examples. Others think they represented a class of powerful presence that cannot be reduced to ordinary human identity. The shared form hints at a tradition with rules, memory, and continuity. Göbekli Tepe may display the most dramatic version, but it did not invent every part of the language alone. It spoke in a dialect that others understood. The wider region may rewrite the origin of temples. When one early monument is found, it can be treated as an exception. When many related sites appear, the exception becomes a pattern. Southeastern. Turkey now looks like one of the most important places on Earth for understanding how sacred architecture began. These sites suggest that large, symbolically charged buildings were emerging earlier and more widely than many people once imagined. This matters because temples are not just buildings. They are places where communities gather around invisible ideas. If such spaces appeared before cities, then the origins of organized religion, social cooperation, and settlement may need to be reconsidered together. Some people see the region as the birthplace of a forgotten spiritual revolution. Others prefer a more cautious view, with many local experiments unfolding over time. Either way, the evidence is changing the map. The first temples may not have grown out of urban life. They may have helped prepare the ground for it. Göbekli Tepe may be one chapter of a vanished culture. The famous hill often receives attention as if it stands alone, but it may represent only part of a broader cultural world that has mostly disappeared. That world had skilled stoneworkers, shared symbols, ceremonial architecture, food-gathering strategies, and beliefs strong enough to organize labor. Yet we do not know its name. We do not know its languages. We do not know its songs, taboos, origin stories, or private jokes. This is what makes the site so haunting. It is not only a ruin. It is a surviving page from a book whose cover and remaining chapters are gone. Some people imagine a highly connected ritual culture stretching across the region. Others see separate communities linked by exchange and occasional gathering. Both views leave us with the same feeling. We are not looking at the beginning of thought. We are looking at the remains of a mature world that history failed to preserve. Its builders left no written names for themselves. There are no signatures carved beside the animals. No leader announces victory. No priest explains the ceremony. No builder tells us where they came from or what they believed. This silence is one of the deepest mysteries of the site. Later monuments often speak through kings and inscriptions, but Göbekli Tepe speaks only through form. That makes the people behind it feel both close and unreachable. We can see their hands in the carving. We can sense their planning in the architecture. Yet their individual identities are lost. Some people find this absence frustrating. Others find it powerful because it allows the monument to represent a collective mind rather than one ruler's pride. The builders may never have thought names needed to be preserved in stone. Their goal may have been to honor beings, stories, or ancestors beyond personal fame. They vanished anonymously, but their work still alters how we understand humanity. Their belief system vanished before history could record it. By the time writing appeared in the region, the world that produced Göbekli Tepe was already deep in the past. Whatever prayers, myths, rules, and ceremonies animated the hill had no scribe to preserve them. This creates a tragic kind of mystery. We are not missing a document that once existed. We are missing an entire way of thinking that may never have been written down at all. The symbols remain, but the explanations dissolved with the people who carried them in memory. Some people wonder if later myths preserved faint echoes. Others think the belief system disappeared almost completely as farming villages, new social forms, and later cultures transformed the region. The result is a monument without a manual. It stands at the edge of recorded history like a voice heard through a wall. We know something profound was happening there. We just cannot hear the words. Later civilizations may have inherited echoes without knowing it. Ideas do not always survive as clear traditions. Sometimes they become gestures, symbols, sacred animals, myths, or architectural habits that outlive their original explanations. Göbekli Tepe raises the possibility that later cultures inherited fragments of a much older symbolic world without remembering the source. A powerful animal, a sacred hill, a pair of central beings, or a sky-connected ritual could travel through generations in changed form. By the time writing began, these echoes may have been folded into new religions and stories. Some people connect this possibility with myths from Mesopotamia, Anatolia, and beyond, though direct proof remains elusive. The idea is fascinating because culture often works through transformation rather than preservation. A symbol can change meaning while keeping emotional force. The builders may be gone, but parts of their imagination may have drifted into later worlds like sparks carried from a fire no one remembers lighting. The site may mark humanity's first great shared idea. What could bring scattered people together before cities, armies, and written laws? That question sits at the heart of the site. The answer may have been a shared idea powerful enough to make people gather, work, feast, carve, and return. It may have involved ancestors, animals, the sky, death, seasonal renewal, or a story about where humans belonged in the world. Whatever it was, the idea became visible in stone. This is why Göbekli Tepe feels larger than an archaeological site. It may show the moment when imagination began organizing people on a scale that changed history. Some people see it as the birth of religion. Others see it as the birth of social cooperation around symbolic meaning. The exact label matters less than the impact. The builders created something no single person needed for survival, yet many people treated it as necessary. That may be the beginning of civilization's deepest engine. The pillars may represent ancestors rather than gods. Not every sacred figure has to be a deity. The human-like stones may have embodied powerful dead, founding figures, remembered elders, or mythic forebears who gave identity to living groups. Ancestor belief would fit a world where memory and lineage mattered deeply. A standing stone with arms and a belt could be a presence that watched over descendants, received ceremonies, or anchored a group's connection to place. This interpretation feels different from calling them gods. Ancestors are closer. They belong to the community while also standing beyond ordinary life. Some people think the facelessness of the pillars supports this idea, because an ancestor can be both specific and collective. Others believe the stones represent spirits or cosmic beings instead. The uncertainty is part of the fascination. If there were ancestors, then the enclosures may have been meeting places between the living and the remembered dead. The hill would be a family archive made of stone. Some statues suggest human identity was already deeply symbolic. The broader region has produced striking human figures that show early communities were thinking carefully about bodies, posture, status, and meaning. These forms are not simple portraits in the modern sense. They appear stylized, charged, and sometimes unsettling, as if the human body itself was a symbolic object. This helps explain the human-like pillars at Göbekli Tepe. The builders may have understood bodies through signs rather than faces. Hands, belts, heads, and posture could express identity without naturalistic detail. Some people see this as evidence of ritual roles, masked performance, or transformation between human and spirit states. Others think it reflects early ideas of personhood that do not match modern assumptions. The important point is that human identity was already complex. These communities were not merely surviving day to day. They were asking what a person is, what remains after death, and how a body can become more than flesh. The animal carvings may mark clans, spirits, or warnings. A carved creature can do many jobs at once. It can identify a group, represent a protective force, recall a story, or warn people about danger. At Göbekli Tepe, the animals are too prominent to be treated as simple decoration. They may have marked which groups used certain spaces. They may have represented beings invoked during rituals. They may have reminded participants of rules, taboos, or remembered events. The same animal could mean different things depending on where it appeared. This complexity makes interpretation difficult, but also makes the site captivating. Some people compare the carvings to emblems carried by clans. Others see them as spirit presences attached to the pillars. Still others imagine a warning system, where dangerous animals taught respect for unseen powers. The truth may combine all three. In a symbolic world that old, identity, danger, memory, and sacred force may have spoken through the same creature. The lack of obvious homes keeps the purpose unsettled. A monument surrounded by clear houses would tell one kind of story. A monumental complex without obvious early domestic settlement tells another. This uncertainty keeps the purpose of the site open. Was it a special gathering place separate from everyday life? Was ordinary habitation nearby but difficult to recognize? Did people come for short periods, leaving only scattered traces behind? The answer matters because it changes the emotional character of the hill. A village shrine belongs to daily routine. A remote gathering center feels like pilgrimage, ceremony, and planned return. Recent interpretations have complicated the old idea of a purely isolated temple, but the earliest phases still resist a simple label. Some people think this ambiguity is the key. The site may not fit categories like home, temple, workshop, or plaza because those categories were still forming. It may belong to a time when sacred and practical life had not yet separated. Evidence of everyday life complicates the temple-only theory. As more material has been studied, the idea of a place used only for pure ritual has become harder to maintain. Food remains, tools, work debris, and other traces suggest activities that look practical as well as ceremonial. This does not make the site less mysterious. It makes it more human. People may have cooked, crafted, repaired tools, prepared feasts, and handled ordinary tasks near spaces of extraordinary meaning. That blend challenges modern habits of separating religion from daily life. For the builders, sacred activity may have included labor, food, conversation, and social exchange. Some people prefer to call the site a settlement with special buildings. Others still emphasize its ritual power. The most interesting possibility is that both views are partly right. Göbekli Tepe may have been a place where ordinary life became charged by ceremony. The sacred was not kept apart in a separate box. It was woven into action. The site may have mixed ritual, work, and gathering. The more we imagine the hill as a living place, the more categories begin to blur. People could have arrived to carve stone, share meals, exchange goods, meet partners, settle disputes, teach stories, and perform ceremonies. None of these activities had to be separate. A day of work might end in feasting. A feast might reinforce alliances. An alliance might support the next building project. A ceremony might explain why the labor mattered. This kind of mixed purpose may be the best way to understand the site. It was not only a temple, and it was not simply a workplace. It was a social engine. Some people imagine it as a prehistoric festival crowned with sacred authority. Others see a center where emerging settled life found its structure. The fascination lies in its wholeness. Göbekli Tepe may show a world before modern compartments where belief, labor, food, and community moved together. Its most important chamber may still be unopened. Even after decades of attention, the site has not given up all its secrets. Much of the mound remains unexcavated or carefully preserved for future study. That means the most revealing enclosure may still be sealed. It could contain a different symbol system, a new type of pillar, a strange deposit, or evidence that changes how every known structure is understood. This possibility gives the site a living suspense. It is not a finished chapter. It is an unfolding investigation. Some people imagine a central chamber with carvings that explain the others. Others expect more ambiguity, because ancient mysteries often become deeper when new evidence appears. Modern excavation also moves carefully, because uncovering is irreversible. The ground must be protected as well as studied. Beneath the hill, rooms may still wait in darkness. They may not provide answers, but they could widen the mystery beyond anything currently imagined. Future excavations could overturn the current story again. The history of this site already shows how quickly big ideas can change. It was once underestimated, then reinterpreted as revolutionary, and then placed within a growing network of related sites. Each stage altered the story. That pattern will likely continue. New dating results, buried structures, microscopic traces, residue studies, and comparisons with neighboring sites could all shift the interpretation. A single discovery can reorder the whole puzzle. Perhaps evidence of longer occupation will emerge. Perhaps a new carving will clarify an old symbol. Perhaps an unexpected structure will challenge the temple label completely. Some people love this uncertainty because it means the mystery is still alive. The most responsible answer today may be temporary. Göbekli Tepe teaches humility. We are not standing at the end of knowledge. We are standing somewhere in the middle, with ancient stone beneath us and unanswered questions still waiting below. Göbekli Tepe may be stranger because it was not unique. At first, uniqueness made the site astonishing. It seemed like a lone impossibility rising from the deep past. But the growing evidence from related sites may make it even stranger. If there were many such places, then the question becomes larger. What kind of world produced them? How widespread were the ideas? Who carried the symbols from hill to hill? A single, extraordinary monument can be explained as a rare local achievement. A regional pattern suggests a cultural horizon with depth, organization, and shared imagination. Some people wonder whether we are seeing the surface of an entire lost civilization, though that word is debated for this period. Others prefer to call it a network of communities. Either way, the implication is enormous. Göbekli Tepe is not less important because it had neighbors. It may be more important because it reveals the entrance to a world we barely knew existed. The greatest mystery is why this world was forgotten. The builders created monumental spaces, carved a symbolic language in stone, organized gatherings, and helped shape one of the most important transitions in human history. Yet their names vanished. Their stories vanished. Their ceremonies vanished. Even the hill itself disappeared beneath the ground until modern discovery brought it back into view. That forgetting is almost as mysterious as the building. How can something so important leave so little memory? Perhaps later ways of life replaced it. Perhaps beliefs changed. Perhaps the spoken traditions broke apart as communities moved, merged, or transformed. Some people imagine deliberate concealment. Others see the normal erosion of time, where memory fades when no writing protects it. The truth may be both ordinary and heartbreaking. The world of Göbekli Tepe was not destroyed in a single dramatic moment that we can easily name. It dissolved into the long human past, leaving behind stones that still seem to remember. And so, we leave the ancient hill for now, with its great stone circles resting once again in the mind, like a half-remembered dream. We have wandered through a world before cities, before writing, before the first kings placed their names on monuments. We have stood among T-shaped pillars that seem almost human, with carved arms, silent bodies, and faces that were never given to us. We have looked at foxes, snakes, scorpions, vultures, and strange signs whose meanings may once have been obvious to everyone gathered there, but now feel like messages sent across a distance too great to cross. Göbekli Tepe does not offer itself easily. It gives us stone, but not speech. It gives us symbols, but not translation. It gives us evidence of feasts, labor, gathering, belief, and burial. yet it never quite tells us which part mattered most. Perhaps it was a temple. Perhaps it was a meeting place. Perhaps it was a calendar, a memory system, a house of ancestors, or the center of a forgotten ritual network spread across the hills of southeastern Turkey. Perhaps it was all of these things at once, because the people who built it may not have divided the world as we do now. They may have seen no firm line between work and worship, no hard border between animal and spirit, no simple separation between the sky above, the earth below, and the dead who remained close in memory. And then, after generations of effort, the old spaces were covered. The pillars were surrounded by earth and stone. The carvings were hidden from wind, rain, and human hands. The hill grew still. Empires rose far away. Languages appeared and vanished. Cities burned and were rebuilt. Roads crossed the land. Farmers worked nearby. And beneath it all, the oldest rooms kept their silence. That may be the deepest wonder of all. Not only that such a place was built so early, but that it could disappear so completely. A world of ceremonies, stories, fears, hopes, and shared labor passed out of memory, yet left behind enough to disturb the tidy story of civilization. Maybe that is why Göbekli Tepe stays with us. It reminds us that the past is not a straight road from simple to advanced. It is full of hidden chambers, lost ideas, sudden brilliance, and questions that do not fade just because they remain unanswered. So, as we come to the end of this journey, let those questions soften rather than sharpen. Let the mystery remain open. Let the great pillars stand where they are, high on their ancient hill, under a darkening sky. Let the animals carved into stone return to stillness. Let the buried rooms settle back into the earth. If you enjoyed this curious journey, you are very welcome to like, subscribe, or leave a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. And if you happen to still be awake, there should be another mystery waiting for you on the screen, ready to carry you a little farther into the unknown. But for now, there is nothing more you need to solve. Let your shoulders loosen. Let your breathing become slower and easier. Let the day fall away piece by piece. The questions can wait beneath the hill. The stones can keep their secrets a little longer. Sleep well, and good night.